Welcome to a world where financial freedom is a sought-after goal. But is early retirement truly the path to fulfillment? In this segment, we'll explore the allure and the potential pitfalls of the financial independence retire early movement. While some have found joy in early retirement, others have faced a lack of purpose, meaning, and unforeseen financial challenges. In an era marked by economic uncertainty and inflationary pressures, the ability to save and retire early may be more complex than it seems. We'll hear stories from both sides, those who've thrived and those who've struggled, and delve into the pros and cons of this approach to financial independence. Join us as we ignite a thought-provoking conversation on the realities of early retirement in today's world. Let's start with Dr. Keisha. You did not grow up with a lot of money, but you found the FIRE movement, dove in headfirst, and achieved it. So can you start us off, just a little background of how you found FIRE?
Thank you. Yes, you are right. Thank you so much, Andy, for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit, and I look forward to learning from those on the panel today. I learned about FIRE really when I was in a downturn in my life. I was going through a divorce, and I just went from a 2-family home of income down to one, and I was strapped for cash. And so I was looking for resources online to help me save more, have a little more money in my pocket today, and start really thinking about how do I save for my future? How do I become financially independent so I never have to worry about money again? And just doing some Google searching, that's how I learned about FIRE, actually.
And you learned about it. How easy or hard was it to live that lifestyle?
Yes, that's a good question. People ask me, did you live on rice and beans? Well, guess what? I like rice and beans, but so it wasn't, that challenging for me, because here's what I learned, what's important. And I want people listening to understand. When you set your mind to a goal, so my goal was, I don't care what does disruption I go through, whether it's divorce, whether, when I was growing up poor, or if I lose a job, we went through COVID, no matter what happens, I want to financially be okay. That was my goal. So if that meant that I need to sacrifice and not get my hair done every week and not get nails done every week, or certain things done that cost $70, $80, $100 at a time, I'm okay with that because I see a bigger goal. And when I set my sights on achieving $1.25 million so that I can become financially independent, I thought to myself, that's a goal worthy of me sacrificing some smaller spending and me downsizing. I went from a really large 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, acre lot home down to an apartment so that I could reduce my expenses. And I was okay with that because I saw the bigger picture. If I could achieve this 1.25 million, I can have cash flows from that portfolio to sustain me where I really don't have to work hard again.
Doc G, how about you? You came at FIRE from a little bit of a different angle. You were a practicing physician, and you kind of figured out, oh, I am financially independent while you were working really hard and seeing patients.
So I love what Dr. Keisha said, actually, because she found FIRE at a time of crisis in her life. And actually, I've been in the FIRE movement for a long time. And that's usually when people find FIRE, is when something is stressful in their lives and they go down the rabbit hole and try to figure out, well, how am I going to fix this problem I have? I also was in the midst of crisis. I was burned out. I was a practicing physician. I was lucky enough to have been brought up with financially savvy parents, so they modeled great financial behavior for me. I followed in their footsteps, so I saved lots of money and I invested money in the market and I bought real estate, but I had no idea what that meant. And I certainly had no idea what enough really looks like when it comes to money. And then FIRE found me. A guy named Jim Daly, the White Coat Investor, had written a book called The White Coat Investor. It was for high net worth individuals like physicians. and it was to teach them about how to manage money. And I was writing a medical blog at the time, and he wanted me to review his book for my medical blog. He sent it to me. I read it, and all of a sudden I had all these answers to questions that I didn't even know I had. It helped me frame what financial independence is and how to look at money in such a way that I can then start looking at my life and having enough to do what I want to do without necessarily working at a job that was now burning me out. Keisha also said another important thing. A lot of this is kind of mindset, right? So you can be financially independent by the numbers or not financially independent by the numbers. But what's really going to separate you is the mindset of not only abundance, but starting to use whatever economic fuel you have to start doing the things you want to do. So we find that people who are very far from their FIRE numbers, right, that net worth that means they're free, we find people are very far from that FIRE number, but they have that financial independence mindset, and they start doing the things they want to do today and building a financial framework around it. On the other hand, you had people like me who had plenty of money, but who didn't understand the mindset. So even though I had all this money saved in the bank, I had investments that were giving me dividends and I was collecting rents, I didn't really have the right mindset to understand how to use that to live the life I wanted to live.
Keisha mentioned goals. How does goal setting fit in for you? Because I feel like a lot of people approaching FIRE, they're just trying to spend as little as possible and then invest their savings so it'll grow. But how specific do you need to be in your goal setting?
So I think they're two different things, right? So when we talk about financial independence, one thing we're talking about is having enough money or having enough passive income in order not to work, right? So that's a very specific type of goal setting where you're trying to figure out that economic number. And there's lots of different ways to do that, which you guys know. There's something called the safe withdrawal rate, the 4% rule, this idea that you can withdraw 4% of your assets over 30 years of time and that you shouldn't run out of money. There's ways of looking at your monthly income. If you own rental real estate, for instance, do you have enough money coming in rents to cover your monthly needs? So there are lots of ways to define those economic goals. What I find much harder is actually to start looking at those life goals. Like money is a tool that helps you to do other things. And a lot of us, especially in the FIRE movement, we get caught up in this idea of money as the goal. And so we spend all our time thinking about that. But ultimately, the next step or the next part of that evolution is actually to start looking at money as a tool that you then need to start using towards other goals. So the harder question always for me was not how much money do I need? It's what feels like purpose in my life. Once I started figuring that out, I can actually go back and reverse engineer the money to hopefully fit what I need of it. And in a sense, sometimes many of us can actually start building that purpose into our life before we hit that so-called financial independence number or goal. And so goal setting was hard for me because I realized I had enough money, but I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had been using money as an excuse to not search deeper into my soul and try to figure out what feels purposeful. So then I had to set out building some goals of, well, who do I want to be as a person? What looks purposeful? How do I want to spend the rest of my time if I don't have to be going to this 9 to 5, which is not filling me up anymore?
Mariko, you work with women and helping them to improve their finances. What are some of the first steps that you go through?
Well, I think I'm the bridge, not only the underachiever in the doctor department, but the underachiever in the FIRE department, in that, I just enjoyed doing what I was doing and the collateral damage was money. So that was awesome. But there was little intentionality around the building. So right in between the two of you. But when I closed my business and retired, then I had the existential crisis because my identity, like, Doc G, what you're saying, it was like that was the carrot, right? That was the business. And then boom, then the marrying of the intentionality and how are you going to steward your resources? So I really love this conversation because we're talking about both. So to answer your question directly, Andy, this is the risk with me, is I won't do that, is that when I sit down with people, we really try to separate out where are they financially, and then what do they want? So where's, back to life purpose, where's intentionality? Because chasing money just because isn't going to, it's not aligned to action. Your soul isn't connected to it. And I know many people who have millions and who don't feel safe and secure either, right? So I think from day one, you have to weave into what's important to you. What are your goals? What are you willing to sacrifice for it? What are you willing to pursue for it? Or risks are you willing to take? And you have to have a very clear-eyed view of how money works. Where are you now? It has to be reality-based and not wishful thinking. And then I just feel like it isn't about sacrifice now and live your life later, that you should be living your life and your spending and your income generation congruently all along. So you're embedding your financial stewardship along with your life stewardship. And I think separating the two is a mistake. And I think our society tends to want us to do that too, right?
Not only our society, the FIRE movement really did that too. In the beginning, it was very much concentrate on money, make as much as you can so you can retire, and then you can live life.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas
and I would say,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you should live life now.
Yeah. And that's the FIRE movement has evolved. And that's why we see these new types of FIRE, right? Coast FIRE, slow FI, these ideas that maybe we can build in that intentionality, do the work you're talking about, which is some of that purpose and intention work early so that we can start building it into our lives now, which was very much not how the FIRE movement started.
Yeah, I would say that was my beef with it.
As an analyst and investment manager, as a numbers person, do you have thoughts about financial independence, retire early? I feel like when we were in college, it wasn't a movement that existed or something that we thought about.
I think the idea, I think financial freedom is really important, and which is not the same as retiring early necessarily. But I think the ability, what having money allows you to do is have choices, and I think that's the important thing. And I think also, and rightfully so, I think there's a reaction against some of the sort of toxic, feral, super hustle capitalism that's very extractive, and people are like, I have to live, but I also don't want to get caught up in being being that, right? So how can if I have to work for the man, so to speak, right? How do I do it in a way I can live with myself and do it for as little as possible, right? But I really think it's about financial freedom, and I think sacrifices are easy when they don't feel like sacrifices. That's the thing. And I think Dr. Keisha really said it. Like, when you wanted to do it, you just do it.
And I can chime in too, because I've loved everything that I've heard so far. We're all kind of in that same mindset, and we're talking about how it truly is mindset, because I speak to so many women and men too who say, oh, I can't do that though. You did it, but I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD. I can't do that. And it's really a mindset, because even Dr. G said, well, yeah, I had the money, but I still didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it. I didn't know. So it's a mindset, but I want to speak to values, and we talk about sacrifices and what it takes to save that money, because the average person listening may not have PhDs and be a doctor and all that great stuff, or be a financial planner. So I would say for the average, the person who's working hard and they're providing for their family and they still want to get to retirement, whether that's early or not, they want to reach a comfortable retirement is what I'm hearing from so many people. I would say reassess your values, right? Think about your values. Think about the things that are truly important to you and the things that are not really that important to you. Think about your life as a whole. And if there was only 3 things you could do with your life or spend your money on, what would you spend on? Would you, half the things you're spending on, you likely wouldn't be spending money on. So that's what I always tell people when it comes to sacrificing. If you have a goal that you're shooting for, it's going to be easier to sacrifice. And number 2, is your spending aligned with things you value? Small things that we don't think are adding up. And I know people say, oh, coffee is not a big deal, but that's just an example of things in your life. Do you truly value it? Is that something that you value so much that you'd be willing to spend $1,000 on it. You know, and then once you kind of reassess and say, you know what, it's not really that big of a deal. It's just because I'm rushing in the morning. So if I just take a little extra time in the evening, you know, or is it really important for me to live in the city? Not really. I prefer to live on the outskirts of town. And guess what? Rent's $1,000 cheaper 20 minutes away, you know? So it's just changing that mindset to say, okay, where can I make cuts where it doesn't really impact my life in terms of my values and how I spend my time and the people I'm around and the experiences that I have. And then it's easier to make those adjustments.
Yeah,
I
100%.
love it. Let's go to segment 2.